Conversations is Julian Pecino, Senior QA Tester at Activision. Welcome to the show, Julian.
Hi, it's good to be here. It's Julian Pecino.
Okay.
Hey, Julian, it's good to have you on tonight.
It's good to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I've been, trying to find some time to finally come on here. Thank you all so much.
Absolutely.
No, it's just fantastic having you on, and you have a job that many people would love to have. Being at a big company like Activision, I'm pretty sure you've worked on some of the major titles. You mind getting into your QA testing role a little bit?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Julian Pecino. I'm a senior quality assurance tester at Microsoft's Activision. Used to be just Activision, but we kind of got purchased. The quality assurance position is pretty much the people who make sure that whatever iteration of the game you are receiving is not necessarily free of bugs, because it's impossible to check everything, and whenever the world plays your game, that's way more eyes on it than just yours. But that's what my position is. They give us a build. We check the build, make sure that nothing's broken. If it's broken, we make a report and we send it back to the developers. And then from there, the developers either make a fix and then send it back. And then that's the regression cycle. It's just a repetitive checking to make sure that everything gets to work for the product that we're trying to deliver.
Okay.
Awesome. It seems like it could be a fun job, but it can also be tedious. Like it might not be as fun as one may think.
Yeah, it could be tedious in the aspect that it's a daily repetition of a task check. Like, I'm going to check that X, Y, and Z works. Okay, when you come back tomorrow, what are you gonna do? Check to see if X, Y, and Z works. All right. All right. What about the next week?
Yeah.
What anything crazy there? Maybe see if X, Y, and Z works. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Got it.
So it's pretty repetitive.
Yes, it can be. A lot of people discount it just because it's playing the video game, but the video game it's fun when you get to play it the way you want to, not when you play the first level 19 times in 2
Right.
hours. So you can make sure that, like, oh, this person's hat's backwards. Why is it backwards? We didn't program it that way. Go find out. Okay.
Yeah.
Good time.
Yeah, I can imagine. It can be extremely tedious because you're not, like you said, you're not playing the game necessarily the way you want to. You're doing things to essentially break the game, and testing to make sure that something that was working isn't. Something that was working continues to work after code updates. So,
Yep.
yeah, just to dive into that a little more, like what is the actual daily work cycle like? Like you just come in, and what do you do as soon as you get in?
Shoot. As soon as I get in, we have meetings we have to hop into to make sure that everything's going according to plan, and that we attempt to make sure that if something isn't functioning, to like learn as soon as possible, because of course you get in at a certain time, the morning starts, there's bound to be a meeting maybe an hour 15 right after that, so that the leads can explain to some developers why an issue is working or why an issue isn't working. And then they can tell us, oh, well, we have a request to check this, so here's this list, make a tracker. And then from there, you pretty much open up an Excel spreadsheet, make tables, lots of tables, because there's a minuscule checks that they want, but each individual check is important because it could be hiding something that could critically break the game.
Wow.
Oh.
Oh wow! So like, do you start with what necessarily do you start with testing? Like the core gameplay, or like how does that pan out? The actual testing.
That's normally dictated by the development cycle. Um, Whenever you're releasing any sort of game, any sort of project, just the ISTQB, the International Standard for Testing Board, you just have to ensure that you've already planned properly to implement it, and also give yourself the success criteria. Because if you don't have the success criteria, you're not going to know when the test is done. That's one of the fundamental things. Like, this has to get reached. This is the threshold that must be established, so that way we can actually, deem that this is a successful game. But a lot of the time, whenever you hear the term of like cut content, it's simply because the developers ended up, and this is just in any aspect of video game, the developers ended up not having the ability or the time or the funding to be able to address those issues at that moment or in general. And so that ends up just feeding into what specific aspect of the timing of the release. So if it's during pre-development, they're going to have way more things available in game for you to use and for you to test on, but not everything is going to be available based on the schedule. Because that's why now these days we have seasonal support, because now you have to have stuff that's for, okay, season 1, which is from January to March, and then season 1.5, which is from February to March. And you're just like, okay. And so you have to like have that consistent support. But that, I feel, has just become a cultural shift in video games that came from the introduction of seasonal characters with Killer Instinct by Microsoft a couple years back.
Killer Instinct, yeah, that's an old game. They brought
Yes,
it back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So tell me, how did you get into video game testing, just in general? Like, what led you to this path? Because I think I saw that you were an electrician at one point.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
right? Yeah, I saw that on your profile. Yeah.
I was an electrician, a contractor over here in Beaumont, Texas for a while beforehand. And then I got the opportunity to become an on-site calibration and repairman because I went to school for instrumentation and calibration. So they had me traveling around for a while in the southern United States, calibrating laboratories and stuff like that for the Texas Department of Transportation. When COVID hit, I had actually just finished leaving Mardi Gras that year, which when I looked at the news, turns out was an epicenter. No idea, had no clue. I was just traveling, doing my job. And when I got home, my boss had called me in, and they had pretty much essentially told me that I was one of those essential workers, and they were printing out the paper that would give me the ability to drive on the streets legally during a lockdown. And something with that didn't sit right, because he was like in a tank top and like pajama pants, and I was in full like get up and outfit, and he was like, you got to get out there, you got to make sure that everything's good. And I'm just like, you got slippers on. I don't feel like
I'm not taking orders from you.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's conducive to my health right now. So I ended up getting laid off because I asked my very polite boss to lay me off, and he was just like, are you sure? And I was like, please let me be free. He was like, I understand. Spent 2 months unemployed. And then a friend of mine had told me that his contract at Apple had just finished. And I was just like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, that's how you work at the tech giants here in Austin. And I was just like, through contract? And they're just like, yeah, go ahead. Look up Volt, look up Manpower, TAFET. I was like, I don't know what any of those are. Looked those up, had one that said game tester, and it had Activision on the side. And I was just like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. I didn't apply. And I was like, that's phishing. That's fake. And about a week later, I saw the posting still there, and I was just like, why not? Give it a chance. Might as well. And I wasn't completely computer literate either. I won't lie to you. I'm more technical when it comes to things. I like the actual nuances of calibrating things between plus or minus whatever range they have to be within. I had no idea how to code anything at the time. But
more so hardware based?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Either hardware or actual, just like, give me the mode and function in which this is supposed to work, and then I can follow that procedure.
Okay.
Mostly maintenance and stuff like that.
So, like prior to this job, were you really into gaming? Like, obviously Activision makes some of the biggest games in the world, such as the Call of Duty series.
Yes. Before going into the military, I was a big gamer. My brother and I were both kids of parents that met in an arcade in the
Wow.
70s. So it's cool that like knowing that my mom liking Miss Pac-Man and my dad liking Centipede got to eventually play out to where like their son works at Activision and helps like create video games. It's really interesting. Big RPG fan, big fighting game fan. Also, if it's got anything to do with space, I'm usually there.
Okay.
I like that. I like the idea of fantasy, space, and or medieval. So Star Wars, right up my alley. Just like space samurais, stuff like that. That's just a cool concept.
Do you like stuff like Assassin's Creed?
I am a fan of Assassin's Creed. I
Just
have not
technically,
played. Yeah, I haven't played one of that series since the third Ezio Auditore installment
Yeah, that
because
was good.
yeah, once it was the first trilogy, I felt satisfied enough to be like, all right, I've had my assassin time. I understand. Because don't you get to fight the Pope in that one? Isn't he one of the
Yeah,
boss fights? Yeah,
at the
yeah,
end.
yeah. I was like, all right, this is what I'm doing for my night tonight. Cool. Yeah.
This sounds good.
Yeah.
No, that
Love
was a
those.
great trilogy.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, like working at Activision, that had to have been a dream come true because, it's some of the biggest biggest series in gaming period. So like after you applied for the job, how long did it take for them to get in contact with you?
Back then, whenever they wanted people, it was I want to say a week, not even that long, because the interview that I got after I got that email saying that there was a response. Within that call, I answered a few questions, and I remember one specific question that they asked is, "Can you explain to me how to make a peanut butter sandwich?"
Hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, peanut butter and jelly. Yeah, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I was just like, all right, cool. First, you're gonna need you some bread, and then I gotta ask you, do you want a regular one? Do you want it toasted? Do you want a double decker? We got options, and they're just like, all right, so you know how to give a process and how to write it down and notate stuff. And I was, yeah, just like, okay, well, what do you think about playing video games? And I was just like, I think that getting the opportunity to break a game and find out what's wrong with it for money is really cool. And they were just like, that's a really good way of looking at it. It was like normally I have to pay to play games.
Right.
You have to buy a game, you have to buy a system, you have to have electricity, you have to have a home, lots of stuff. But like for you to be told you have the opportunity and the chance to actually get paid money, not a lot of money, mind you, but still get paid money to play video games. I did take that opportunity, not lightly, because you do have to realize, like you mentioned earlier, that it's a dream. You're a kid,
Yeah.
you're in a room, you're playing a video game that obviously entrances you, and it takes you to another location in your mind, in your heart, and in your imagination. So you're just like, I want to create something like this. And I remember one of the big ones for me was Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation 1, which was an Activision title. And so I remember seeing Activision spinning on my screen for the longest time ever since I was a kid. Tony Hawk's, Spider-Man, Call of Duty. And like when I got the chance to finally like jump on board, I was just like, sure. I don't want to sound corny about using this term, so I'm not gonna use the acronym, but you only live once. So you got to give it the chance. You at least got to try. I'm not going to tell myself they're not going to hire me when I'm not there to be the one deciding if they want to hire me or not. I got to give myself the shot.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes it seems like the job that you don't necessarily think you're going to get, you end up getting. It's just as long as you take that shot, you're giving yourself an opportunity.
Yeah, Yeah, that's how you have to treat it. You have to be aware that a job is a job is a job. You
Yeah.
are looking for employment, you're looking to get paid, you're going to be using some aspect of your body to make the payment, to make the exchange for money. Like I'm either going to pay you, you're either going to be using my mind and my intellect for your job, or you're going to be using physical labor from me and my intellect so that way you can get a product out. So
Right.
a lot of people don't get the opportunity to have that choice. So whenever I got the chance to at least try it, I'm glad I did. I'm very thankful that I don't get to have that type of regret of wondering, dang, I wonder if I could have, I wonder what would have.
Right.
And now I know that like this is what I got to happen, thankfully.
Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
you were definitely blessed to get a position like this. Is it something that you assumed that you would just get it, or was it more like you're on the fence? Like, I don't know what these guys think of me.
At the time, whenever I applied, I had no intention of staying as long as I have, because I was not aware of when it would end, because
Okay.
it was contract, of course. The way that it worked is once the product was out, if they didn't need you, they didn't need you.
Oh,
Since
wow.
if you're not full-time employee, which is usually like assistant manager or manager, if you're not either one of those, until the merger happened, we weren't full-time employees. So that was one of the conditions that they had once we started threatening unionization. And they were just like, hey, you're full-time employees. Now you have benefits. We're just like, great. We still deserve more. We still know that like our hard work and labor is putting a lot of money in the pockets of the fat cats up top, and you know what's going on.
Yeah.
Whenever we finished a project, they would let you go if you were liked because you knew what you were doing. Then they'd be like, hey, we got another project actually down the road. We're not going to be paying you over the holidays, but you know, you can come back and work on Monday. Okay.
Hmm.
And so we did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we did for a while. It was a lot of not very conducive things to the environment and to the faculty that the management tends to do sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've heard of a lot of horror stories about the gaming industry, just like the hours, and like you mentioned, it's very seasonal. They have you on contract for the game. As soon as the game is released, they fire everybody that, like you mentioned, that's not a full time employee. So, like,
Right.
you mentioned you didn't necessarily have this as a long term option or a full time career. Was it just something that you just kind of planned to try out, and once you did, you were going to pivot to something else?
Well, for a little bit of clarification on that, COVID had just happened, so I don't think anybody had any plans on what the future was going to look like. Like
Right.
Like, am I going to be alive in a month? You know, what's
yeah,
going on?
yeah.
What's going
This
on?
was just like I guess this is what I'll do until something else in the world happens, and
Because you
then
remember when that first happened, there were all these dead people in New York, and they were like
yes,
placing the bodies in some kind of ship. I forget exactly, but I just remember hearing, okay, there's all these people dying. So, should I go outside? Should I go to a store? Is that safe? Everyone was freaked out when it first came about.
yeah. When I first got the position, I wasn't a senior, obviously. It was just a normal tester, so I didn't have any, uh, I guess, perks that you would say just by being bottom of the barrel. I did learn how to work on a laptop, how to use a PC, how to game uh, on not just a console, because I grew up with just either a Super Nintendo or a PlayStation. So my brother was the computer whiz, and then I got the opportunity from there to learn how to actually uh, play on PC and test on it as well, and how to report, how to find logs, how to parse through things. And I think that in itself was the little nugget of self doubt that I was trying to continuously conquer, because it almost felt because it was a gimme during COVID, that it was a bit of imposter syndrome, that like someone who has been working outside, someone who's been driving around, who has no idea how to actually report these things, get the opportunity and chance to finally work on a video game. When I know there's people that had been going to school for it, they've been getting degrees for level design, they've been getting degrees for like being able to have accessibility in video games because they're physically impaired. They have the disability that they can't use their legs, so they now have to like in their head like design levels that allows them and the ability for traversal across worlds in a video game, and that's what they want to create.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's people who have real and like incredible stories as to like why they were wanting this, and I feel really lucky that I got the opportunity not only to be here, but to have experience of it not being my first job. So I didn't feel like that fear, like, oh, they're going to take my future from me. They're going to take like I've had futures taken because you plan your life out with whatever job or whatever income you have at the moment. You're just like, all right, I have this, I'm comfortable, I'm well within my means. And then suddenly that gets taken away and now you have to start over. It's unfortunately something that's very current, but something that we have to naturally be aware is always a possibility.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in this economic climate, you know, you can lose your job at the drop of a hat.
Yep.
So, like, just due to that level of economic stability, especially with the game industry, did that kind of shape your, you know, your idea of how you're gonna deal with your money? Like, hey, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna save because I don't know how long this is gonna last.
Yes. Um, I mean, with the opportunity of being able to be hired by a tech monopoly, you get the opportunity and the chances to, what I would say, drink deep from the belly of the beast, because you're already in there. They've already bought your company. You're on under the Microsoft umbrella. So at this point, my perspective is what changed.
Okay.
If I were to want to have a future in tech, what and where would be available in the future? Not right now. That's why I say a career in tech, because that's not just a right now thing. That's a right now for as long as I'm alive type deal.
Right.
When you are wanting to jump to go to something technological in this time, the reason my perspective changed was I got bought by the number one corporation for technological advances, Microsoft. If I want to do anything IT, where would I be applying? There's nowhere
Yeah.
else to go that's up for me. So it was kind of just like, oh shit, like, pardon me. Oh wow. It's something that is happening around me, and where I'm standing currently is becoming more and more sought after. So I need to start adjusting and preparing and planning for what happens after, logically,
Right.
AI tries to replace whatever aspect of a human or a physical being to try to downsize the amount of cost that it takes to run something. So I got myself trained as a data analyst through University of Texas. So they taught me artificial intelligence and the differences between, generative AIs and, other agents and LLMs and stuff like that. And I have been having way more fun knowing that a lot of management, but also a lot of stockholders are the ones who are using these loose and fast. What is it? A word that gets your attention, like a zinger, like something that's just like, oh, this is artificial intelligence.
Right.
Oh, this is AGI. Oh, okay. Buzzwords.
Buzzwords.
Yeah.
Buzzword.
Buzzword.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you ask one of them, okay, what's back propagation? How does that work? And they're just like, oh, it's AI. What's the method? Like, how does back propagation work? What are you training that agent on? Like, oh, well, it's gonna get you some good stuff. All right. So y'all are just selling something. Y'all just okay. Got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
right.
So
I think that's. Oh, go
it's
ahead.
no. Go for it. Go for it. I was finishing up. I was just saying that's the fun part of it. Like actually knowing
And,
that they're just talking.
yeah, I was about to agree with you because there is a lot of hype around AI. Obviously, it can do some powerful things, but like what the marketers are promising is it's a far cry from that. Like it's not a full on human replacement. And I think a lot of companies they're gonna make a huge mistake of firing a lot of people, and then once they realize the limitations of AI, then they're gonna be scrambling to rehire people.
Right.
I feel that is the truth for the ones that want to stay open. There's a possibility that there's a handful of companies that are going to uh, bleed out the entirety of their talent pool and manage that to be able to not let whatever product that they're delivering die before launch and have enough support to be able to convince somebody that they are worth selling. And then from there, that's whenever I expect for whatever group of people that was working on that project to get let go. The reason why I say that is because even some corporations that have unions, they have caveats to them. Like there's something called the WARN Act, the WARN Act, which pretty much makes it impossible for a large corporation to like lay people off effectively. Not impossible, but like to do it without having them to have a conversation. If you have about it can be, I think the threshold is 50 people. If it's beyond 50 people, you have to have the conversation to give them a severance package, let them know how long their benefits are going to last, see if they can get set up with another job internally. But unfortunately, what corporations like doing is they like functioning within the gray zone. So they're just like, they look at the thresholds that are necessary. It's like, oh, so we don't have to do anything. This says 50. All right, cool. We are going to cut loose 49 people. And then from there, everyone else is going to pick up the slack. We don't know how to do these tasks. Don't worry, we're giving you Copilot. You can put in some prompts, and then however that result comes up, you can just turn that in, which is what the message that we're being given is. We don't want you to give us amazing results. We want you to let us know what results you're finding with whatever it is you're typing in. So that way you can give us the ability to replace you with whatever you trained the model on. And it's a bit backwards, sorry. Because there are instances where you are left with the work of 4 different hats, I want to say. Like, what are you doing today? Oh, I'm working on automation, making sure everything is getting checked out and making sure that nothing's failing. And if it does, I need to report to the automation team what's happening and what kit and how we found it. Okay, what are you doing after that? Oh, well, I'm running a play test because I have to make sure that 15 other people over here, because we got a request, and we have to make sure that it's at 3:00 because LA gets they're on at 5, and we only have an hour to do that. So right before they get off, we have to make sure we align with them. Okay, well, what are you doing after that? Oh, then I have to, and it doesn't stop. Yeah. So it continues being that. It continues being enough for the people who were able to get in a position of management before the replacements to happen, for them to start using reasoning like, oh, we don't feel like you reported enough this week, and we've been seeing that you've been having problems with keeping at the consistent numbers, so we don't have the faith that you're going to be giving us the product that we're looking for, so we're letting you go. We're terminating you.
Wow.
Could you make that decision?
How common is that?
It's getting more and more common. Unfortunately, when I say more and more common, that also kind of coincides with the numbers dropping as well. So it kind of sucks because every time it does happen, that means not only is my friend gone, my colleague is no longer working on whatever it was that he was supporting. Now I have to pick that up.
Right.
And now my manager is the one that's saying, oh, I have a meeting I have to go to. Make sure this is done. And when I come back in an hour and a half after bullshitting with my friends, I'm going to ask you why this isn't finished.
Right.
Yeah, I noticed
Pretty
like in
much.
tech, they're kind of making you almost have to be the walking tech department now. You can't, it
Mhm.
used to be where, okay, you come in, you do a singular thing like Angular, for example, but now you do front end, DevOps, a little bit of back end. And I'm pretty
UI.
sure it's the same way in QA testing. Like
Mm.
your
Mhm.
initial scope was limited, but now it's broad. You have to wear many hats, like you mentioned.
Yes, sir. There's also, because of that, the unfortunate aspect of miscommunication, because my manager is the one who is capable of accessing whatever threads or whatever Slack posts that the report is coming from. And whenever they ask us, hey, take a look at this, okay, cool. It's an issue that's written by a developer that says, hey, look at this Slack thread. And that's it. That's all of the context. That's the entire report. Look at this channel. Okay, click on it. You don't have access to this. Got it. Hey, we don't have access to this. Sorry, we're in a meeting. Oh, and then an hour and a half later, hey, we haven't had access to this in about an hour and a half. Why didn't you say anything? All right. Okay. It's
So
very
like,
interesting.
how I know if a game releases with a critical bug, yeah, obviously that can cost the company a lot of money.
Mm.
How much pressure
Mm.
comes down on you as a QA tester if something critical was missed?
That depends on what the critical was. Um, it's interesting what they would determine as a critical, and that's just something that it's designated by how egregious it is and how hard it pulls you out of the immersion. Oh, there's a not capitalized T right there. That's a critical bug. We don't know how many lowercase T's there are. Oh shit, that might ruin someone's day. Oh wow. For a critical bug on a launch day, the majority of the time when it comes to something like that, if it's something that affects the game to the point to where it's not playable, it would use the word critically impact the cells. Just because people talk. And the interesting is about that is I had mentioned beforehand that we can test as much as we want, literally physically.
Right.
We have a shift to go in a game that we are installing in the morning, playing through in the afternoon, and then hopefully getting another one in the evening. Once we get through those checks, unless those checks were the ones that we're, specified for us to look for, unless it's a casual thought of a player who does this naturally, we're not going to think of whatever it was that broke that game or whatever it was that caused the critical issue, because everybody has a different play style. You can put 3 players in a room. Somebody's going to be trying to clip out from double jumping in the corner. Someone's going to be trying to crawl underneath a couch and get out of the map that way. And there's another person spinning at 360 at like an incredible speed, just staring at the ceiling. But every single one of them has a different ability to find issues. And all of those issues, depending on when they're found or how much they impact the game, is what dedicates their severity. But for it would cost the company a lot of money in general if you were to, let's say, pick an operator. Like, oh, I like this dude's skin, but as soon as you go in game, you can't pick your loadout. So now you look cool, but all you're doing is being a standing target, and you can't pick a weapon. So you're just like, why am I playing this? This is just unplayable.
Right.
So in that case, somebody posting that on Twitter, somebody posting that on Reddit, somebody putting a YouTube short up that's just like, oh, cool. And then suddenly we'll get a request from our developers saying, hey, did you know about? And then they'll send us a Reddit link. And they'd be like, yeah, go check it out.
Check this out.
You know? Yeah, we didn't know about that. All right, cool. Let's see if we can figure this out. Okay, cool. Because like the amount of people we have working in Texas is less than 300, and that's split across 3 different studios.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are those 3 studios?
The studios that we have here at the Activision umbrella in Austin are Infinity Ward, Sledgehammer Gaming, and Treyarch.
Okay.
So those are the 3 that we have a lot of support for. Sometimes Beanox, so a 4th one here and there, but that's each one of them has to have multi-console support. So whatever project that they're working on has to have a PS5, it has to have an Xbox, it has to have a PC, so that way you can make sure that each one of the outlets for whenever the sale is going to be on, like either Sony or Microsoft side, complies with being able to be sold as a product.
So I'm assuming Call of Duty, since those 3 studios primarily work on Call of Duty, those are the main games that you test?
That those are the breadwinners, yes, here in Texas. We, since COVID, I believe I've worked on most of the series, Black Ops, Cold War, Call of Duty Vanguard, Modern Warfare 3. Limited time on that one, because that was a bit of a rush. And then now just recently Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah. So I'd been there long enough, and it was interesting because they cycle you the way that it works when you're there long enough, so that way you get experience at Raven, you get experience at Sledgehammer, you get experience at Treyarch. Each one of them has a different writing process. So you get taught one generic manner, and then you get bullied into adhering to which protocol you're working on.
Gotcha.
So like, since you test like all 3 different flavors of the game, well, from the different studios, are you able to kind of take some of the good things from, this studio and make suggestions to the other studio, and they actually listen to you? Or is it just pretty much, hey, just report the bugs, don't give us any gameplay suggestions?
They have told us that there is a feedback button that we are not necessarily shunned away from, but are kind of instructed to avoid, because we have learned that developers are fickle when it comes to social interactions. Not all of them are open to critique, and a lot of them are very much, this is my baby, how dare you, this is my life's work, you're not even on my level to be, and I'm just, look, this is broken, fix the level.
Get out of here. Wow.
You can lord however much you want. I'm just here to give a report, guy.
Yeah, being in software myself, I know there can be, the QA team and a dev team can be at odds, because sometimes the dev team feels like, oh, the QA team, they're making me look bad because they're reporting so many issues. And I know it can be kind of like a delicate dance. Like you have to kind of take into account, like you mentioned, software developers, they can be pretty introverted, socially, fickle. So how do you find that balance to where, okay, I'm going to report these issues, but I'm going to also try to, not set the dev team off?
We actually do try to set the dev team off. We very much at this point have become aware that they, just as much have we, have been suffering from the layoffs. So a lot of people have started becoming lazy with whatever requests that they're sending. So my job is to go to my manager and explain to them why it's an impossibility, so that way they can tell a developer why it's an impossibility in their words, because mine would be much less concise and nice. Mine would be much more forward with trying to establish the issue at hand. But because of that, it's part of the job. It's interpretation. How are you receiving information? How are you parsing through it? And how are you dispersing the important parts of it?
Now that interpretation Are there certain levels to that, or is it just one thing?
At this point, it's becoming one thing. Initially, there were multiple levels to it, but as time has triaged all of the people out of the tech sector through all the layoffs, it started becoming less and less difficult to figure out what the method is. Because once you realize that there's a way of talking to people in general, not just a person, just people, you be vague. You don't. And I've also understood that it's corporate talk. It's very ambiguous. It's not a promise, but it's an acknowledgement that something's happening. We are aware of your inconvenience. I'm sorry that you went through that. Okay. Well, this is still broken. Okay, cool. We have had instances and issues where the people who are still remaining, they just don't have that social aspect to them, which is a possibility. Not everybody has the ability or the gift of gab to just be able to walk up to a stranger that they have never had any experience with beforehand or after and just casually say, hey, I need this report by this moment. That's something that to them might be scary. That's something that could be confrontational. That's something that whenever they did it as a kid may have had adverse consequences that they just never told anybody about. And then just now are in a position that has to have that interaction. And now people are learning to be human again, which is a bit
I was going to
difficult.
ask, is that forcing people into, I don't know, just a social environment, more of a social culture?
Return to office was what I would say was the return to social culture. Okay. The people that we have, just in general, in the working in the office type situation or scenario for the tech world, it does force social interactions, but it does breed anxiety like it's a corporate high school. You remember what it is to have a group of people that are not all from the same place accumulate into one location and still have differences. And it's the comfort of somebody who's used to that difference and used to the ability to project their dislike for that difference through a computer screen without consequence that ends up becoming the issue. A lot of people now, and I do say now as just a widespread thing for the culture, can't differentiate work from social media.
Yeah.
They think that, and this is just my stance, my perspective, they think that a work channel is a channel that's there for you to post whatever you want when you're feeling it, even when you're at work. Which is that's one of the symptoms of COVID. You can't blame a person who did not have outside expertise or experience in their formative years from like 18 to 23, whenever that was spent as a catastrophe where you had to be forced inside, and those habits now get from everywhere get moved into the workplace. Now people are unaware of how they respond in those types of situations until it happens.
Wow.
Just from what you're able to tell us, what are some of the more interesting bugs or the craziest bugs that you've come across?
There's some interesting ones. There's some really cool ones because you don't think about how many things happen at the same time in a video game. You're running through, you're just focusing on the end goal, but there's grenades going off over here. There's smoke happening over here. There's air jets flying overhead. And you're just like, wow, there's so much going on. There's sometimes no reason to look up and see if the air, if the jet's upside down or if the smoke is coming out green instead of purple. And you're just like, wait a minute, this is messing up my immersion. There was one instance in a campaign mode mission in Cold War that you have to pretty much zip line and rappel to this location, and it gives you the prompt to walk up and actually attach to the zip line. And there's an adversary that's there that can shoot you to make sure that you feel the pressure. Oh man, you're making the escape. Oh, you're really there. So much action. And sometimes he will throw a grenade at you. If you shoot him while he's cooking the grenade, it can drop and you can latch onto the zip line at the exact same time. And with the explosion will send you out of the playable area and then just start pretty much sending you to the Shadow Realm from Yu-Gi-Oh! It's pretty interesting how you see some things act. You could have instances where there's 3 trucks were in the background and they're programmed to just drive one specific path. Okay, cool. Well, what happens if you interrupt the first one? Well, let's see. I can shoot this one with the rocket launcher. It disables it. It doesn't disable the ones behind it because they're all running individually. And turns out you just made a ramp that's going to launch the trucks behind it right into the stratosphere. And that's a bug. Yeah. And you report that. You're just like, hey, we found this. And they're just like, oh, it's outside of the playable area. We're not fixing that. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
That's a really interesting kind of way of everyone going about things in a certain way, and much to your point, it's not always social, it's not always accurate, because some people, definitely some coders are extremely introverted. They don't like talking to people. They went into programming because they don't want to deal with people. They just want to deal with code. So I mean, how much of that do you see from your position?
From what I see, I have a lot of people who they have that. They have that very much where they're just like, it's the introversion of wanting to be able to talk about what I want to talk about. Where I'm aware that someone's going to be talking about football. Okay, cool. I don't want to participate in that conversation. But when you talk about Yu-Gi-Oh, oh my God, you are not going to get them to be quiet. It's a topic difference. It's very much that, like, the person who has gone into coding that doesn't want to talk about something, it's because they probably never had possibly never had the opportunity to have an outlet for something that they find enjoyable as a fan, something that they get to gush about, because most of the time all they're doing is getting depended on for the output. Right. So when they get the chance, or they meet people that are also akin to them, like, wait a minute, you play this deck? Yeah, man, I love using Ryzeal. Oh, what about Crystron? And then it just doesn't stop. But that's one thing that I have understood, that when it comes to the introversion of people who wanted to be in tech, it is more of an aspect that the hobbies that they have with the people that they're around just on a line, so they don't have the need or the drive personally to feel like they have to add something to it. Because to them, it's either learning something completely new, or it's just something I'm not even absolutely interested in the least. But I still have a job I have to do, so I'm just going to listen to you talk about how cool you think Brett Favre is.
Interesting, man.
So, like, getting back to the subject of bugs, and like Hitman, for example, there was this bug, like, if you throw this suitcase, it kind of homes in on the enemy and follows them around. Was there any like funny bugs like that you discovered that it was interesting enough that they just kept it in the game?
For them to keep him in the game, it has to be fun enough to not ruin it. Because a lot of the time you can run behind something. Oh, I can see through this. I can shoot through it. All right, now you're usually using something as a tactical advantage until someone else uses it against you, and they're just like, oh no, that's broken, that's cheated, that's bust. You ought to fix that.
Right.
There have been some instances where you can mount a motorcycle. You can just get on and drive around, usually ATVs, whatever other types of vehicles. Sometimes, depending on what type of game you're playing, if a motorcycle is available, there's a chance that you become the wheel. That
Oh, wow.
instead of actually sitting on top of the seat, you see your operator like lean forward, and then as soon as they start driving, you just see them start tumbling, just doing nothing but front flips, smashing their face on the ground, and it's just an aesthetic difference, and they're still riding the motorcycle, but now it's all terrain with your face, and
Yeah, right.
it's fun, it's interesting, and it's cheeky. But you show that to an investor, like, oh, look at how fun this is. What do you mean people are playing it this way? Oh, okay, all right. I guess it's an issue. So we like making the joke whenever something like that happens, that we tell each other, like, come on, don't report it. It's a feature, not a bug. It's a feature. That's just part of how this works. And we're like, no,
Yeah.
oh, we gotta, okay. And then we're like, hey man, you remember when we used to be able to make the RC car go into hyperdrive by throwing a shock charge at it? Yeah, man. Remember we used to be able to put sentry turrets on top of that? Yeah, dude, that was fun. But like, you show that to anyone, they're like, oh, that's a critical bug. That's not functioning correctly. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes
So
more
you
sense.
working in video games, what is your, tip top? What is your favorite game of all time? Not just, where you work.
Of all time, just because of the simplicity, the difficulty, and the score. And I've never had a bad time playing it. Donkey Kong Country 2.
Nice.
Sticker Brush Symphony is one of the greatest tracks that was ever created for a video game soundtrack in the 90s. To have won an award for the score in itself in a video game was just fantastic.
Impressive. Yeah.
Now, it's also, you get to play as monkeys. That's awesome. Anything with monkeys is just super cool, dude. Like Super Monkey Ball, Donkey Kong Country, King Kong, anything that's simian or Ape Escape, anything that has those types of simian involvements, I'm usually very, very fond of. But it's Donkey Kong Country 2, and the most current one that's got to be Elden Ring.
Okay. And then
And
same question, but for Activision.
For Activision, my favorite game from Activision, even though I don't get to play it because I work on it all the time, I would say, grossly enough, Black Ops 7, because I do have a sense of pride in, even though people are just like, oh, this is another Call of Duty game. Oh, we didn't even know it was going to come out. And I was just like, to me, I got the opportunity, the chance to like immortalize myself, even in just a single screen. That's all it takes. Just my name's in the credits. I have 5 AAA titles under my belt, and that's 4 years ago. I wasn't able to say that. So for me to be able to,
that's huge.
Yeah, like see the results, the fruits of my labor, and actually like have the ability to like gift them to my cousins and to like my brother, like, hey, here's a code to the game. I hope you have fun.
Yeah.
It's cool. I would say Black Ops 7 at the tip top, just because it's something that I sweat the most over.
Okay.
Yeah. For my final question, sometimes I know people come in the QA role, but they pivot out to something like being, a game producer or something. Do you have any plans of doing something like that? And like, how would that actually be feasible? Like, how does one go from QA to some other role?
You have to be open to stepping back. The difficulty being a QA tester is that when you step into the QA role, there's one path. Usually a difference in amounts of steps, And that's just because some corporations and companies like having that convolution so that way they can pay someone at a different rate because they have a different title, even though they're the same position.
Right.
Whenever you're wanting to head into another aspect of gaming, let's say production, or databasing or automation, of course, you would start off by trying to check to see if there's some sort of internal program that allows for for you to contact someone who's in that field, or for you to get into contact with somebody that knows somebody to get you, the information to start getting in that direction. But if they don't, the next thing that you should start trying to do is starting to take a look at the titles of the people that have those positions, because a lot of them will tell you that, oh, well, I got this position because I actually was a contract worker for 4 years, and then I picked up middle management, and then I decided to apply to this position, and then they offered it to me. So not only that, but it's also like worked long enough for them to be able to dictate and deign that you have tenure. Like, a lot of disadvantage comes from nowadays people telling you, I know what I'm worth. You're supposed to pay me this much so that way I can give you effort. When it was, on the other hand, you need to work for me. You need to prove that I'm going to pay you this much, that way I can pay you this much. But you have to have the results already spoken for us to even think about that.
Right.
So that in itself is already like the social difference. Of I don't want to work because you're not paying me enough, or we're not paying you enough because y'all don't work. And it's just like the cyclical logic of that. So when it comes to getting into another position, you got to put in your time. You have to show, when you have the opportunity and chance, because I know sometimes they do just lay you off, but when you have the opportunity and chance to prove yourself, the tricky thing is not to overextend, to show them that they're capable of burning you out immediately and then tossing you to the side. You have to make yourself integral to them.
Right.
You have to make yourself be something that they grow dependent on. And whenever your absence is there, it's something that makes them panic. Because once you become the bread maker for them, that's whenever it's just like, oh, whatever you need, yeah, sure, we'll set you up. Oh yeah, wait, I know a guy. He's been my best friend for years. You should have said something sooner. When last week they were just like, hey, we were looking at your numbers and it's been 3 weeks. What's going on? It's very wishy-washy and flip-floppy like that, but that's also what you have to take into consideration as well. Wherever it is that you're going, it is a different environment. So just because it was difficult here does not guarantee that it's easier there, but it also doesn't force the difficulty in that location, because it's a difference in difficulty and topic.
Different culture.
Yeah. Different groups.
Brian, did you have any closing question?
Let me think. Okay, if I like to ask people this from time to time, if you were able to hop in a time machine, go back to the day before you accepted the offer, what would you tell that guy? What would you tell him? In that moment.
What would I tell that dude who was opening the door and found a big brown box in front of it that said Activision on it? I would tell him to try. I would tell him to stop being scared, because when opportunity arrives at your doorstep, it's an opportunity. You never know how long it's going to last, because I've met such amazing people that have taught me so many things that I could have never learned by myself. And I'll say that candidly, I would have never given myself the thought to learn it if I hadn't met these people.
Right.
And I miss them terribly. So the thing that I would tell the dude who's about to take the job is try and make sure that you stay in contact with the people that taught you these things.
Yeah, relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, like actually like maintaining not just what you built, but like forming camaraderie with somebody. Because at the end of the day, whenever you're working at somewhere like that, walking out of the building, all of you just spent 8 hours sitting next to each other, playing video games, and almost being in a Discord call. So
Right.
you do form bonds, and then whenever somebody gets let go, work on trying not to let those bonds just wither away.
It's good
Because
advice.
you never know when later down the line they might have a gig that would be super helpful to you, or something could open up in their line of new work that you might have a friend that knows something, and then you can hook them up somehow. And that's just how society works.
How it works. How it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
The last
So-
thing I wanted to comment on is I actually got a buddy who works in the video game industry. He started in QA,
Mhm.
then he moved up to production. He was a producer. And now I'm not sure what the next step he took after producer, but now he's a creative director. And he's doing really well. He's making a lot of money. So I guess, I just say that to anyone listening to this, it is possible to enter through something like QA and end up a director. It might not seem like it's possible, but I've seen this with my own friends. So, I just thought I will mention that for everyone.
That's a very valid point. That goes back to putting in your time. If you feel like it's difficult, bear it, deal with it, grit your teeth. It's gonna suck. It's a job. You're not going to the job to have fun. You're going to the job to make money so you can go have fun. That's how it works. But while you're there and you have the opportunity to do it, bear it, because you get the opportunity to do it. You don't know what chance could come tomorrow, but you have to at least be there to grab the opportunity, to grasp it, because opportunity is just like luck. It will visit you. And if you're not ready for it, it'll go to the next one.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
yeah, it's never personal.
Never. It's always business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, we're at the top of the hour. Before we get out of here, did you want to leave our audience with any closing thoughts, and where can they find you at?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Julian Pecino, always open to work. I don't have many social platforms because the testing actually prefers that we don't have an opinion when it comes to the company on a social platform, because they will pull you in for that. But for anybody listening and everybody listening, thank you so much for giving me the chance and the opportunity to explain some of the things that I have. It's always important to not give up. And it's always important to, even when you do feel like you want to give up, to try even harder at that moment, because that's when you find out what you're made of. And you'd be surprised. That's way more durable than you're giving yourself credit for.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Hey, man, we definitely appreciate you coming on the show. We'll have to get you back sometime.
Yes, sir. It was a pleasure finally getting on here and getting the opportunity to meet y'all.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
And we like to